Welcome to the Pump Rules podcast, the show where cast and connoisseurs come to talk all things Vanderpump Rules.
Well. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Charlie.
Hello. We're here. We made it. We're in the Thunderdome, bitches.
But this is just 1/3 of our total endurance test. And actually, I would say it was a double-sized first third, even though we typically watch, like everyone else, the episodes many times. There was the regular version, the pumped-up version, a lot of versions to Thunderdome with.
Right. No, I actually missed a bit of the pumped up version because the week that we started this podcast, I also decided to start real estate school. And, she's studying real late, folks, and only had time for the original version. So I'll be reacting in real time to some of these new little bonus bits, hopefully, that we will reveal throughout the episode.
And now, a Honda Civic journey down the Vanderpump Freeway of Time with your driver, Craig McNeil.
You know, that voice sounds so familiar to me, but it just came in from the ether. So I don't know, maybe it's I've met that person in a past life. But what you just said reminded me of something about what was going to happen maybe to the show around season 8, the cursed season 8. Someone was posting a repost from something that turned out to be like 2 years ago, where they said Andy introduced Lala as from the Valor.
It's contagious. It's contagious.
It is. It's contagious, and it's a good time because people like to hear people being themselves and just having a good time. So
they love mouth noises.
Big time. Well,
ASMR mouth noises.
Exactly. Yes. ASMR is huge, right? So. Yeah, you get into the word fumble, a deep tunnel on YouTube, and you're going to have a blast. The Vanderpump Valley. So 2 years ago, I guess, or something, Andy introduced Lala as being not from Vanderpump, but from Vanderpump Valley. Now, the story is that around the time of season 8, possibly after season 8, or right before, I can't remember which, there was consideration about doing something to aid the ailing ratings. So it must have been after 8. Anyway, they were thinking about splitting the show into like the new kids and the old kids, basically. And one of the names that was being thrown around was Vanderpump Valley. And
what? Yeah. I had no idea. Wow. This should have been. This is breaking past news story time.
Exactly. I think we'll have to have a feature, a special moment, a bumper for that as well. I hope that we can get the same person, though, to do that as did the other one, because it's a very special sort of timbre to their voice.
Like you said, she's booked and busy.
That's true. That's the word I got. That's the word on the street and the word in this podcast as well. So the other names that were being thrown around, according to an article or two that I saw, there was a thought, well, maybe if we focus on Tom Tom, it would be when Tom Tom met Lisa, or some terrible title like that. Like if I'm off,
Tom Tom met Lisa.
So bad. Like one of those shows you see on like on E. Like that would be an ETV type show. You know, you're like
when Tom Tom met Pump Pump.
Yeah, exactly. I'd much rather watch When Hanky Met Panky, but
yes, a love story for the ages.
But I am happy that in the end, season 8 sort of created.
They should name a sandwich that. I don't know what sort of sandwich that, but it's something about her. There should be a When Hanky Met Panky. But
with something about her, there should always be some Hanky Panky, I think. So. There's a couple other names I'm sure they'll pop up, particularly when we get around to the dreaded season 8. But the one good thing about season 8 really is that it led to season 9, because they were like, whoops, I think we fucked up here. And I think the failure of that led to them breaking the fourth wall, which of course leads us into not tonight's because it's not tonight, but it's just like we just watched it. We just came away from the television, somehow watched the Peacock version, and now we're at the beginning of the Vanderpump Rules Season 10 reunion.
Reunion opens one day prior to them actually taping it. We see a flash of interviews taking place between Andy and Tom. Andy addresses him as potentially the most hated man on television, and that he's given this moment for his final chance to come clean.
And listen, I gotta say, I don't like goofing on people's appearances, and I'm not in this, but Tom doesn't look well. Like Tom doesn't look healthy, and I think it's indicative of the philosophy that I believe in that your inner state sort of controls how quote unquote good or whatever, well or healthy you're looking. Because as I'm sure you've felt, like, you know, when you're like doing better internally, people go, "Oh, did you get a haircut? Oh, you kind of have something about you.
Got a glow.
You got a glow." And of course, because I'm speaking negatively about Tom, which of course never happens on this show, I just want to show what I'm wearing for the viewers. And not the listeners, because you can't see this, but it's one of the original Tom Tom jerseys. I wore the beige one, which I thought was an interesting color choice on the first episode, and then now, of course, Charlie is wearing.
I have purchased the limited edition Every Night is VPR Night, the play on the emo night hoodie, because you know, I'm all about the band getting back together. You know, it was one of the first times we saw Katie and Sheena reuniting since everything, and you know, girl power. You know, and Every Night is VPR Night as of late, especially. So I thought it all the most fitting.
I think so too, and it fits rather well on you. And much like when we see Ariana tell Andy that she has some garments that he can replace all those trash Tom Tom shirts with, she's going to be gifting the show some of the very same.
Even though it is museum worthy, we need to erect a Vanderpump museum. You would have all of the pieces in it, all of the Tom related pieces. But yes, we do need to replace them. Back on the subject of Ariana, her title card comes next, and it says that she is brought to her interview for a moment to share her experience. And lastly, Raquel, a chance to explain how it all happened.
That flash of Raquel was, I don't even know if I noticed it in the first watch, because, you know, you're so excited for the thing and you're like, yeah, her. Well, we're not going to get to her this time because she's you're not allowed to be near Sheena. But it was really, I know, right? And this Star Wagon, which it was nice to see inside one of those, because on the outside, it kind of looks like any other kind of like dumpster thing, but it's actually quite nicely appointed, and which makes me wonder what like the Will Smith type are, the ones that fold out. There's ones that have a pop out. Yeah, those look like hotel suites. But when so Andy asks her, "How are you feeling about seeing everyone?" And Raquel's response is, "I don't know. Just preparing for the worst, hoping for the best." I mean, she's original at every corner, and you know, that reminds me that Jax and other cast members talked about in various sort of like not sideways, but like little incremental little moments in other interviews, so that it didn't really matter that much. It just seemed like she didn't have a grasp of the language, but they would see her writing out lines and then rehearsing them to herself to apply to whatever situation was going on, which, I mean, so she started to write back then, but in Wingdings, as you said, but it
Barely,
also,
yeah.
Right? Exactly. Maybe that's why she got so good enough, not so good, but good enough to send a letter. You know what's probably inside? Blank pages, except for her signature, like "Love Raquel" and Wingdings. But and, I mean, the cast all found that super weird. I found it weird when I heard that, but I didn't. She wasn't as big of a factor in the show. It's just like, oh, that's sad.
I mean, if you go back and you listen to the episode where everyone's fighting in the back, what was seen as the initial finale before they went back and filmed the one that we all know to be the finale now. If you go back and you watch how Raquel is talking to Katie, you know that she sat in her mirror, put on her pageant girl sash, and said, "I know that me making out with shorts hurts your feelings, and I know that it hurts them more because it was me." Like I like when I heard her saying all that, I was like, you are literally giving a pageant speech right at this very moment.
Yeah, totally. She's like doing a scene for like a solo tape, and she's she's like, she doesn't have a willing scene partner, but she's going to barrel through no matter what. Like, I didn't get the cue, but I'm going to just go ahead.
I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't care what's going on in this actual reality, which I think is kind of honestly a big window into Raquel's perspective of life.
It really is.
Seeing and doing what she wants.
Whether or not it lands, doesn't matter.
And speaking of the text that I mentioned earlier that stunned me with her skill level, Ariana tells us that Raquel didn't contact her until 48 hours after she had found out the news. As she texted her, "I don't know what to say. but I'm so sorry. Ariana returns her text with, fuck you fucking rat, and then informs us that she blocked her. I don't have much to say about this except that it feels extremely righteous and I love it. And I wish that I had the restraint and control to tell all of my enemies only fuck you fucking rat and never speak to them ever again. Maybe I'll have the restraint.
Well, I know that is an admirable quality, which we see her exert many times in this episode. Is something that pleases me very much, and almost as much as I love Ariana's Raquel impression, as well as her assessment of her character, because she is a fucking rat. And I haven't heard anyone call someone a rat in a long time. Like, oh, you dirty rat. I almost said you doty rat, which is not what I'm trying to say. And I love you, Kristen. But it's like a callback to like a 30s or 40s thing. Yeah. But then you have the fucking rat. It's so modern, postmodern. Just like James Kennedy said when Ariana gave him the jumper. He's like, yeah, I'll wear it. I'll make it fashionable. She's making it fashionable.
Right. And then we brought back to Tom's interviews where he's reconfirming some of the order events, starting with the connection made at Guys Night at the Mondrian and the following See You Next Tuesday. And, I feel like I'm hearing about this scenario so much, and it's just like, I figure, eventually we'll talk about it so much that all of the facts will become straight, or the story will finally make sense. We'll know the meaning of life. If we just talk about it enough, eventually it will make sense.
Exactly. Eventually, as Lisa says, the truth will come out. And when Andy asks Sandoval about that, and he asks him when he realized that he was starting to have feelings for Raquel, which I think is another great example of Andy's, and I say this with love, weaseliness, because that's like sort of like, that's really casting a far wider net than when was the first time you guys had sex. And that throws Sandoval, because that has not been in his press kit, in his internal press kit, right? And then we see the look of confusion or a little bit on his face. And as we get into later, there's a whole problem with the timeline, that it just gets worse and worse upon further viewings as well. There's the obvious bit where Schwartz is like saying something and he's like, August, dude, or whatever he says. He says dude a lot. Dude, obviously, dude, obviously.
Oy vey. And that's also something I noticed over time. The more Sandoval refused to not call Lisa Vanderpump dude, the more I feel like his life spiraled. If only he would have remained respectful, we might be in a different reality.
Yeah, because
I feel like there's some correlation.
There is, because dude, come on, man, dude, that's poetry in motion. But also then when Tom answers that the affair began long before, his answers rather suggest that the affair began long before they say it did. I think possibly around the time of Rochella, and because we know that liars lie, and when they lie, why would they come clean fully? It's like the obsession with optics dictates that, okay, well, this is when people kind of know, this is when they've seen us, so let's backdate it. And I think some other folks have the same idea.
Yeah, to make it not as bad as it seems, and it's just like, it's already real terrible. At this point, it's only the truth could set you free sort of situation. But we're not at that level of perspective yet. We're not at that level of awareness yet. We are only approaching the impending ego death. Like we haven't met it yet, but we've eyed it across the room. That's about it.
I'm looking forward to seeing that either next season or the season after.
Right. And that's the spinoff show, Sandoval's Ego Death. Next winter on Bravo.
Yeah, only in winter.
Yeah, only. We go back to one of Ariana's moment from Ariana's interview, and Andy is establishing her implicit trust in defense of Raquel and Tom over the season. And I gotta say, this whole segment, like, my head just kind of felt like it was spinning, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't feel I didn't feel like I got any real, like, more clarification on what happened. I feel just kind of like, it felt like this little montage has been marrying this past few months of the news cycle, where it's just a very literal sense of he said, she said. When is it going to make sense? Like, when are mom and dad going to stop fighting? Like, when is this over?
Yeah.
You know, so if they wanted to, you know, set the stage for combustion, like I was set, I'm just kind of like, okay, all right, like, where are you taking me with this story? You know, that's kind of where I was at here. I'm just like, okay, my seatbelt reluctantly and just
Yeah. Well, because we already know what we're sort of in store for. And also, this is the first time that they had these separate interviews for this show. Anyway, I think it's been done on some of the Housewives series. I think the one with Kim Richards, etc. But and other ones, which you know because you are the database of Housewives information, which we will use that skill, I'm sure, many times along this journey down the freeway of Vanderpump magic and terror. So it does accent a lot of that. And it also just keeps making me think they were up to nonsense way before Guys Night, because Guys Night seems like an easy anchor. That's the easy anchor to put it on because why? Because that's the footage where Raquel is coming on her own or with another girl. I can't remember. Did she convince Allie to? No, she didn't, because Allie was home.
Charlie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's right. You know what? Because I can only think of one Charlie Valentine.
You know.
And poor Charlie, as we'll get into when we go back to the beginning of season 10 and move forward, Charlie was clearly an unwitting pawn in the whole thing, which evidences,
very much so.
Right? And that whole thing is just a classic example of like narcissistic smearing, and also, oh, you weren't there and you don't talk to them. Great. I'll tell you this version of the story and you'll swear by it, and I'll put myself as a sympathetic, poor, misunderstood martyr, and I'll get your sympathy. And also fuck up your relationship with these people. Ooh, tasty casserole.
Right. And when I think about the possibility of things starting around Rochella or beforehand, and I try to conceptualize the amount of planning that these two would have to be doing together. It's one, it does give them, and it does give, you know, Warm Stash and Wingdings a lot of credit, a lot of credit. At the same time, it also is just so dismaying, because it's like, if you can expend this much energy on trying to just hide a relationship, I just wonder what you could potentially do with that energy if you just decided to exercise some emotional intelligence.
I agree.
It's kind of mystifying. It's a lot to do for a really long time. So, you know, he shies away from all the, like, is this getting you off questions? And I'm like, oh, bud. Yes, I think the little sneaky planaroo, it's all fun little games to keep you occupied, and, you know, on a high voltage of like, you know, very much in that like manic state of mind where you're just like hyper vigilant, but like, you know, just like needing to be on the edge of suspense. Like, when's it all going to come crashing down? Like this, he's hang gliding right now, you guys.
Yes, he is.
He's hang gliding. He's skinny dipping, but he's doing it with all of his friends' lives.
And sometimes on mushrooms. I think that is exactly the appeal of it. I mean, with that pathology, or at least, you know, if you don't want to say that he is one totally, but though it's hard not to see that when especially the flashbacks to Kristen and the paralleling and everything, that seems to be the kink of it all. And then when we consider Raquel's motives, sometimes I can want to call her Rachel, and I'm thinking, well, you know, is that respectful? Just like, not that she deserves respect, but like anyone you hate, you'd be like, well, if that's their dead name, that's their dead name. But I probably will call her Rachel, because I don't respect her. The whole thing about the thrill.
Rachel doesn't respect us.
You're right. So Wingding or Rachel? Oh, she definitely doesn't respect us at all.
No,
at all. But what was I just saying? The timeline thing and the length of it. Because of my experience with people doing that sort of thing to me, that was a long fucking time, like real long, crazy long. So that's why when you put together the refusal or rescinding of the engagement at the end of season 9, it's like, was something already going on? Did she already have something in mind? How could it go from the short period of time, which in this season was a lot shorter, between the finale and the reunion to that? Well, because there was rot in the thing. They said they didn't have sex for 2 years. Well, hey, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound like something else that we've heard recently? So a lot of creepy things.
And just as we were speaking of the timeline, we continue to reconfirm more of the events between glamping and Life is Beautiful and BravoCon, and in the milieu of all of that, Andy mentions that he attended one of Tom Sandoval and the Most Extra shows with both Ariana and Raquel dancing with him in the front row, and that's where we got to that question that I mentioned earlier. Did it get you off watching them watch you together? And honestly, like when I think about that happening, when I think about Andy Cohen going to go watch Tom's band in the middle, sandwiched, something about her between these two women, the mistress and the girlfriend, with this, like all of this cheating being unbeknownst to him, them being aware that Andy Cohen has no idea that they're like, it doesn't sound real. I wish we had more footage from that night and we could just, I need like a DVD extras, with Sheena's blog, and anytime Andy Cohen spends any time with the cast, I need to see that. I need like POV of Andy Cohen in the sidecar with Sandoval. Like, I need it all.
Oh, that'd be great. And I saw them talking one time at a Watch What Happens that was filmed in LA. And you could tell from that, and also anecdotes from other people that know Andy, that he always was very fond towards Tom, not just because of the St. Louis connection, but he just sort of liked him a lot. And I think that his impression of him has taken a severe beating, but an understandable one, because I think he was, my guess is, as shocked as anyone else, because for him to be in the front row and actually bobbing his head, like, very generous. Like I let me tell you, if anything ever proved Ariana's support and loyalty and devotion, it would have to be how many times that she has endured a Tom Sandoval in the Most Extras concert, and because once was more than enough for me. And I remember I drifted towards the back because it was also way too loud. And as you know, I have tinnitus, and I don't want to go deaf, especially from a Tom Sandoval and the Most Extra show. I don't want any ringing. I don't want anything. I don't want a slight dimming of the top end. So even with my earplugs, it was too loud. And I saw in the front that kind of stuff going on. And I was like, wow. I was like, some of those people are like really into this. And I was like, how is that possible? But if he wasn't into that aspect of it, and clearly he's a thrill junkie, he needs, as he says, stimuli. This is just like, hey, let's make this crazier and crazier. Hey, let's make Schwartz and Sandy's even more difficult and more of a drama thing. Because, some people, negative attention is just as appealing as positive. So
if anyone's proving that right now, that is his persistence to be on tour.
That's wild, isn't it? I mean, yes. Can you imagine doing that?
No, it's escapism. Like, and that's what I've said, is all these things that he's into, it's very much to escape like the actual real things in his life. We still have Schwartz at home showing face in the bar, and he's, in Texas sharing ego space with James Kennedy.
Yeah. And during the whole, let's say, main chunk of time where it was like really starting to get sweaty regarding the money being poured in and when are they going to open, he was fucking off on tour, which when you put that timeline together, then overlay it with the Raquel stuff. By the way, when they say, wait, that happened at Coachella, I'm like, I gotta have one of those maps that the FBI has, with like the string. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Because I'm really like, wait. We
are all that Charlie O'Day meme from It's Sunny in Philadelphia, just being like chain smoking or cigarettes, being like, so he was here at 10:14, blah blah blah, and so was she snowboarding, even though she hated it. Whatever. That
was great. I have a definite theory about that for later. But before we get back to the moments, the beats, the happenings in time, when they cut back to Andy and Ariana, one of my favorite exchanges, and between them they had a lot of my favorites of the whole episode, particularly because of her concise comprehensive and correct statements throughout. But she says, in regards to who was she more disappointed by, she says, well, we all know that men are trash. Andy blanches, and she said, no offense. And Andy goes, well, I'm going to co-sign that. So just adding a little bit more to the rancid stew, or the fighting of the rancid stew of misogyny that we've been talking about.
I mean, it's the very least Andy can do, you know. Bouncing back to Sandoval again, he reveals that there was a time when he vented to producers and showrunners about what he and Ariana kept hidden in their relationship, their issues, verified by this, little clip they show of him talking during a time where they were filming in one of the bars. It's a nice try, but it doesn't quite give me enough to even feel like it was like a worthy swing. Like, he's just not even trying here. And then he goes on to talk about, he claims to have felt like a gay BFF. And it's just all very like simplistic things that it's just like, if you don't like it, leave. But that seems to be literally the one thing Tom Sandoval cannot do in life, and that's healthily leave a relationship.
Yeah, which speaks to intent then, right? Because there's some kind of desire. It's either that you have a desire to cause chaos in your quote unquote loved one's life, or you're too spineless to do the thing that you should do. So it's not a great either or, but that's the either or. And the gay BFF, by the way, it makes me laugh because there's a long history with that phrase in this show, which I'm not even going to bring up. But there was someone on the cast who got quite upset by that phrase. And I love seeing certain things like that just sort of like getting threaded into the big fabric of the Vanderpump quilt. And also, when he says he felt like the gay BFF, I'm like, Logan is her gay BFF. And we've seen that. And he actually spends quality time with her, and she feels good afterwards. I definitely think that they hid some things as a couple, but I think that when they hid stuff, kind of in the way that Raquel quickly hid that parcel of something on the counter after Sandoval sat down on the counter in the finale, but the team strategy of Sandoval and Ariana was clearly something that was implemented by Tom. Obviously, any person will keep some stuff close to the vest about their life and whatever to avoid certain things. But this construct is, how this came about or how this was enacted is clearly seen when they talk about certain instances of behavior. But also, that clip is hilarious because that rap that he did in the thing. And now I'm sure that the editors found this clip, and it's probably one of the only ones that reflects this sort of thing. Unless he said, you remember we were shooting at fill in the blank and I said blah, 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 blah. So that could be it. But he said that about every other cast member all the time. I've heard it a million times. I don't know if I've heard it on the show, but he said it on Watch What Happens Live and other interview outlets that if someone is hiding, for instance, if Jax and Brittany weren't going to address the big thing about the pastor, which they already had addressed, then it was incumbent upon him to kick down the door and make sure that everyone was doing their due diligence, all that stuff. Whereas Katie follows that principle actually, and so on and so forth. So I think that is just part of the stuff that leads to, Sandoval's optics preservation is what leads to convincing Ariana to defend against Miami Girl, which anyone who's been in a relationship that has that aspect to it, which even at that point was still a glorious, wonderful time, knows what we're talking about.
Well. And, Craig, can you believe it? We are over 30 minutes into the episode and we have not even seated in the seats. We have not even seated in the seats.
Well, it's amazing.
At the reunion stage. There's so much to get into. So everyone starts milling into the stage for the reunion in the next scene. Everyone's looks are incredible. We see a little clip of the fact that Sheena arrives in her Uggs and is having her high heels brought to her ever so deliciously. Lala looks incredible in a sequin letter. Again, the word twisters. Why can we not talk today?
I think that's what it's some kind of a sign from the universe that we're going to have those and we're going to feature them and they'll become recurring bits.
I'm twisted all over from this reunion. What can I say?
It was, as they say, a gut punch.
Andy is loving everyone's dresses, and then of course the dress of all dress arrives upon Ariana. There's audible gasp, hyping abounds. Everyone looks amazing,
Everyone looks amazing except for the guys. Now we're gonna take James Kennedy out of this because he's the number one guy in the group, obviously. Schwartz's attire, very disappointing. I know he likes very casual wear, but I mean, dude, this is the reunion. Like, I know. He looks like he got dressed in the dark.
This is reality TV. When there's any sort of formal gathering for reality TV, it is literally, you should consider it the Met Gala, essentially. Yeah. Have you watched a reality television show lately? Like,
this is the thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's full couture, no matter how big or small the event, no matter the actual formality or casualty. If you're gathering on a reality television show, black tie. Black tie couture.
Exactly. And at the very least, Schwartz, like, imagine it's your niece's confirmation dinner or something like that, or you're going over for like some kind of a 10th anniversary of your cousin's wedding. And that, you just throw some kind of a tie on, mismatched slacks and jacket. Okay, fine. That would be enough for Schwartz. But right, that silver leopard thing, I would love a shell jacket, like my Pia jacket in that.
Ooh, yeah. It would be amazing. I mean, we're having like a total love fest, everyone just complimenting each other. And then literally it is like a dark cloud settles over the room slowly but surely, which is followed by Sandoval's entrance, where everyone visibly deflates and consequently ices him as he joins them to sit.
It was great seeing the commitment to like, nope, I'm not just going to be nice to you because we're in this setting, which people do a lot of times. Like, oh, but we were at a party, so what am I going to do? What am I going to do? No, this is what you're going to do. And it's also good for the show, of course, but it's nice to see. And as Sandoval is being led to this stage, a PA says, "Right this way, sir," which is the last time he was referred to with any respect for the rest of the day, possibly the rest of the week.
Right.
And I love Ariana just going, well, he looks like shit. He looks hungover.
No holding back. No holding back. I mean, of course, he was probably, him and Raquel were, doing their nightly galaxy light rituals. So, yes, I'm sure he is hungover.
Those galaxy lights can take it out of you. People don't realize they look so cute and harmless.
In the midst of all of this, we become informed of Raquel's temporary restraining order. Again. Okay.
Well, that's because that's how ludicrous her restraining order is.
It's maddening. It's truly maddening, and then we're also made privy to how her silly princess little ass is perched in her tiny little Barnacle Betty trailer 100 yards away. Like, I love the chyron that says Raquel 100 yards away.
It's so good.
Like, that's all I can say about her. Kristen Doty may be Tom's ex-girlfriend, but Raquel, she's only 100 yards away. That's all she gets.
She's just 100 yards away, which is also kind of a threat. Like, Raquel's
right.
like 100 yards away.
Raquel approaching.
Yeah. Someone call an Uber. Someone call Jason. I got to get out of here. There's a great comment. The James and Lala commentary is one of the best. I would like actually a separate version of this that had their audio track up at all times, much like a director's commentary on a Blu-ray, because the juice and the fever in that, and like you can see clearly Lala's love for James every time he makes a comment. And when Schwartz is asked by Andy about how if strange it must feel, or doesn't it feel strange to be seated at a reunion not next to Katie for the very first time, James very adroitly points out that to Lala, he goes, didn't cross his mind, did it?
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure that it didn't. And that's, honestly, just another emblematic thing. It was like, he's not out there actively hurting, but just doesn't ever key into just anything that he should like maybe be getting in touch with himself about. But
because he could just say, be like, yeah, it's really weird. Like,
right. But he's like, oh, like what? I had no idea. Like, I just, bumbled over here from the arms of Joe. But anyways,
or Girl Joe. That's what Kristen calls her.
Girl Joe.
That's what I like to call her now too.
Yeah, as you said, Andy proclaims that James is the number one guy in the group, and he so aptly says that it's not hard when he's working up against Schwartz and a fucking clown.
And sadly, this clown has apparently forgotten to use the concealer for this engagement. Or maybe he is wearing it, but the hangover is so fierce, so strong, that there's just no masking it.
No denying. As they're going down the cast as they're seating, Andy's saying his hellos, and Sheena's big greeting and announcement and hello is just another comment on Brock's radical haircut that everyone is obsessed with.
The one time you see Sandoval actually sort of trying to engage, like, really? Or wow.
Yeah.
And Andy's the best. I love the coding of Andy's responses, because he's always polite, but you can tell when he gives less than a shit. He goes, oh.
You're also kind of bearing witness to how much of a shit that he doesn't get, because he makes a sharp left-hand turn right into the affair subject. And we get a nice little package citing our whistleblowers in succession. We've got, Astrology Alley at the Abbey, Ken Todd Tellum, and Lala Cold Case Kent all spouting off, their little suspicions as the MVPs in this incestuous game of Clue.
These are the MVPs and the lead detectives of Law & Order, Sexy Unique Restaurant Special Victims Unit.
Dun dun.
There was some ad with Sheena and the cast. I got to find it, where it's like the Law & Order music or something like that. I just saw it yesterday. I have to track it down, because it was like one of those filmed off a screen TikToks on Instagram kind of thing. And I was like, I don't know where this is from, but it's going to be mine very soon. Ours,
yes.
Excuse me. Yes.
Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, now I have the Law & Order.
It's one of the catchiest goddamn themes ever. Bum bum.
Yeah. Anyways, so he goes right into questioning Sandoval, who just immediately starts bringing out, his faux apology tears and starts sobbing. And he doesn't even he can't even get out one sentence before the gang just descends. They just go nuts. It's like the minute he opens his mouth, it's just a free for all of, no, you're not going to talk. We're all going to listen to you in whatever various forms they choose to say.
It's really a magical moment. I think we should enjoy it again. The audio straight from the uncensored version of what happens when people hear and see the tears of a clown.
I just want to thank everybody for being...
Pull yourself together, man. This isn't a fucking
You're not
Oscar.
a victim.
You're not at the Oscar.
Not a
You're not at
victim.
the Academy
The sad
Awards.
sack
You're not
act
at the
is
fucking
fucking bullshit.
You're
I'm not a
doing
victim,
fucking
guys.
Knock it off.
Right.
Okay, well, let him speak.
Yeah.
James, don't
James,
hit.
here's the deal.
Be a man, mate. Be a man. Pull yourself together. Fucking crocodile tears, pussy.
And there's a lot of misogynistic undertones and everything that's coming out of James's mouth, but I'm going to give him a pass today. We just set him free and let him go. This is the day for him to work his magic, and bygone it, they sure did. There's just very much this little orphan Annie, little scruffy kid energy from both him and Lala. Every time Sandoval opened his mouth, they're just like, "Oi, sir, no, you're not going to talk. You're not going to talk. You're not going to get us." It's very much just unrelenting, just I don't know. That was very much their energy to me this episode.
You had a great parallel corollary for them.
Yes, and because if it wasn't that, they were also being very kind of, I felt like Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets, just very two little curmudgeon-y old men disguised as beautiful LA models. Just every little sentence that was muttered, they had some aside for it. And so I want to say initially, though, that what I loved that I noticed is that after Sandoval tried to exorcise his tears and he saw just the bomb that went off, we don't really see him try to cry once again for the rest of the episode. He's like, "Oh, this is not going to work today. Nobody is buying what I am selling." So we get that first little aside, of James being like, "Nah, that apology didn't hit for me." And Lala's just like, "What? I didn't even listen." They're just being such little shits down there at the end of the road. It's really beautiful.
It's also beautiful when Ariana says he's full of shit and he can fuck off. That's great. I listened to that clip over and over and over and over and over, which again, you know what? It shows how great the uncensored thing is. The Osbournes, when uncensored, it actually kind of lost a little something. But this, though, I was like, this is the real stuff. This is the stuff that Martin Scorsese has made in films before. There's a scene coming up that we'll talk about. It seems like something from Mean Streets, but the whole crying thing. I'm thinking of trying to figure out. I guess I can do this through IMDb. I just don't want to have to go track these titles down. Tom Sandoval has appeared in a number of films. One of them even with Eric Roberts, co-starring Kristen Doty, and I think there's a crying scene in it. So what I'd like to do is compare his acting crying scenes with his quote-unquote non-acting crying scenes to see.
Dang.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to add you to the detective squad. You're gonna be attaching yourself to the SVU.
I think it's just it's fate. I think it's just fate. Sometimes a calling, you're aware of it, and sometimes it just comes and gets you.
You know. So where were we?
Oh, you know what? I actually had one thought just before. I want to mention also Ariana in a different forum, Call Her Daddy. She did a great interview on that. But she mentioned in regarding talking to Tom, and you notice, she barely ever looks at him. And she says these tight, little compact things. She went no contact. So anyone out there who's struggling with a narcissist and you're able to do it, they're not like someone that's living in your house, etc. But apparently even when they're living in your house, when you have Ariana and Tom's house, going no contact, it's an essential tool in your tool belt to surviving a narcissist. Anyway, please continue. It was my public service announcement for the moment.
An important one, the narcissists are all around us.
It's true. Which, I'm glad you brought that up because I had more thoughts about what I just said. But I figured, the narcissist thing is going to come up probably a couple more times. So we'll just save that in the tin for the appropriate time. But this is that. And I just think of the horror show that it was that she describes. Because knowing the pathology of that type of personality, a lot of people deal with that, a lot of people. And they don't have the resources. And by that, I don't mean money, but the resources of friends who are able to come over, or even friends who know what's going on, because a lot of times people are too embarrassed to talk about this sort of thing until well after a relationship, if you can call it that, with a narcissist is over, because of the amount of grinding down to dust the narcissist tends to want to do.
Oh, I mean, as we were talking about in our intro episodes, I really don't know if I could bear going through my relationships like this in a public eye. Like, if I'm not in a great relationship, I take that to my grave until that person is out of my life. Like, I made the mistake when I was younger of putting my bullshit on my friends. It's not that I don't vent to my friends, but if I know that if something I'm dealing with is a little bit out of left field, I'm either, one portion embarrassed, other portion, I'm not placing that on other people. I will, I will, weed this narcissist out of my life at my own pace.
Yeah. Although I get both approaches, but I found that I had a problem in telling this stuff to friends like my friend Jason or another friend at the time. And because when I even just started like giving like the broad stroke summary of something, they were like, Craig, what? Are you kidding? And that was just like one or two things. And then I realized, okay, if you're feeling embarrassed about it, if you're feeling that's a big sign that it's like later, I think Ariana says something like, if you're talking to your friends about like ending a relationship, once you start telling your friends, like it's already happening, like you're in the process of doing it. So
speaking it into reality, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So as we're talking about them still living in the same home together, Lala mentions that, they talk about Lala immediately leaving after everything came to light with her and Randall. And she says, I couldn't get him to stay home. And when shit hit the fan, I couldn't get him to fucking leave. So she very much sees the parallels between Sandoval and Randall, someone who, is kind of universally held as being a scumbag right now. You even hear Ariana concurring in the background that that's what she's dealing with. And she goes on to say, Sandoval is Randall in 10 years. He's a narcissist. Everyone needs to be warned. He is dangerous. Then we have that really kind of jarring moment where Lisa says dangerous is not the right word, and she goes on to defend Tom. And Lala strikes. Oop, there's a moth in my house, and it just flew in my face. Oh my God.
Well, the devil spirits of Randall and associates have sent that as a sort of a warning. Yeah.
Bite down on me. Anywho's, and Lala goes on to say that she didn't ask for her opinion, and she says that she rejects it. I was just kind of stunned in this moment because it just seemed to me that I think it's something generational with Lisa not grasping the language that when you hurt people like this, you are emotionally dangerous. You are psychically dangerous, and it doesn't mean like, oh, you're dangerous for life, you're dangerous for fucking ever, this is the end. But it means like, as of right now, you are not actively trying to dismantle that sort of behavior. So I don't know if like the more appropriate language or words would have been like, I don't know, sexy, unique narcissist.
Son is a pretty nice little nickname. So yeah, I'm with you on that, and I was shocked too. But actually, not so much shocked as kind of like, yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Kind of that feeling with someone of her generation, and also, I guess, the surroundings in which she came up in the world, where actually it's pretty clear that, I mean, narcissists are everywhere. But if you're talking about the show business or the rentertainment, it's a good one. I'm gonna have to keep that on file. But the restaurant business, which we could call rentertainment, given this series,
exactly,
right? There's that kind of personality is abundant. Though, again, they're everywhere, so watch out, folks, because as Charlie said, they are dangerous. They're very dangerous. They can fuck up your life for years after the last time you saw them. And if you ever make the mistake of allowing them to con you back into their clutches, it's going to be even worse. It's called hoovering, folks. Look it up and see what happens. And you might recognize a pattern in your own life, and hopefully that will free you from further torture. And Lisa, I would like to know, what would be the right term for Sandoval? I get that she, in sort of a mother figure way, doesn't want to see this aspect of Tom. Even I think she's also coping with like accepting this stuff, which everyone has their own speed of it. But I can understand how that's so galling to her because she loves Ariana and everything. So it's very vexing. But I feel like as time goes on, particularly with this approaching ego death, I think it's going to be pretty clear whose side, I think it already is anyway, whose side Lisa is on, but she's just not, I think, capable of accepting that stuff. It's almost like the way people go, oh, I don't need therapy. Actually, that would be a bad James Kennedy impression, but those sort of misunderstood notions of what it is.
I mean, if you go back to watching Lisa Vanderpump on Beverly Hills, that was something she was widely kind of accused of as not being very emotionally sensitive, taking jokes too far, this, that, and the other. And you kind of have seen like a different side of her start to unravel over the years when she started, experiencing different levels of grief due to, things that people who had passed in her life. But we also, after that period of time of her experiencing grieving, we saw her being present in scenes with Ariana talking about her depression. So it's like, I feel, she even mentioned when her brother died that she took a full month off to grieve. And when you think about someone who works as much as she does, that is a good chunk of time to carve out of your life to dedicate to healing. And I'm sure, she had great specialists and doctors surrounding her and, got her to a better place. So it's like, I know that there is a part of Lisa Vanderpump that has cracked open in the last few years, but I also kind of understand that she's got a part of her that kind of has downplayed things for most all of her life. It's just kind of, she has a desire to just want things to be fun and playful, and I get that, but at times, yes, it can put your head on the chopping block if you're not necessarily seeing people for who they really are, especially when they've very drastically hurt someone and that you might have in common with them. Sometimes you have to pick sides, and sometimes you defend some dum-dums.
Yes, that's true. And also to the Beverly Hills point, a lot of people in that franchise accused her of behavior that would be aligning with narcissistic behavior as well. In particular, the Us Weeklies that were supposedly suggested to be brought by Lisa by one of the other cast members. I can't remember which one. That season where Ken and Lisa went and smoked cigarettes, like breaking these optics.
I believe they were trying to prod Brandy into bringing up these tabloid stories about, I believe, Kyle Richards being cheated on by her husband, Mauricio Umonsky.
Exactly. And there's a reflection of that in why did Ken know that stuff to go into the kitchen and talk about Zandervo, because from what the scuttlebutt is that Lisa doesn't want to be the bearer of bad news, so she asks Ken to do it. Ken's more than happy because all he's got to do is breeze through the kitchen, show the dog, and then exit stage left. So it does speak to a certain not pathology, but pattern.
He did a great job. He is a regular that is my stretching timer.
Oh, it's what? It's time to stretch, everyone. So listen, we're going to put our tools down, and then you do the same and have a nice stretch. It's like they used to do it. I can't remember where because I don't have a story for it, but now it's stretch time. So enjoy the following material.
Find us on Instagram and Twitter at Pump Rules Pod, or go to pumprolespodcast.com for more information. Email pumprolespodcast@gmail.com and follow on Facebook at facebook.com/pumprolespodcast. Thanks for listening and see you next time.